couple introductions, and then we'll go ahead and get right into our meeting. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Chris Minso. I'm the president of Pearblossom Council. I've been working with Janet and Susie on this 138 initiative, but it's actually been in the works for many, many years. And I think at this time, the recognition from Little Rock Creek to Big Rock Creek and all the community members that live in between and use that corridor have now come together in a way that has brought this initiative to the forefront. So it's not just a Pearblossom issue, it's not just a Little Rock issue, it's not a Yano issue, it's all of ours. And that actually becomes an issue well beyond just the local community. It's an issue that expands to all the rest of the Angelinos in this county and also the rest of the citizens across this state. This is a major corridor, the Highway 138, as most of us know. We're used to Vegas traffic on Fridays and returning home on Sundays. But as we've all watched this little valley grow and we recognize the growth, there's something called the High Desert Corridor. The freeway, CEQA, and all that stuff, it didn't happen. So there's no big freeway to relieve any of this truck congestion. We didn't know Amazon was going to be where it's at right now. So now we have Amazon trucks. On top of all this, Little Rock quarries are almost empty. So now all the quarry trucks are here in Pearblossom. And they all have orders to drive on the highway, not on the side streets of T. So our area has changed dramatically. Just in the last 7 years, let alone the last 20 or 25 years ago, when these corridors were designed. So, fast forward to now. Little Rock's gone through some changes. Pearblossom's gone through some changes. And we've had some unintended consequences because of these designs. And I like to thank Caltrans and our good friends at the CHP office for all the work that they put in to reach as many goals as they can to either provide safety. Osama, we've had many, many meetings, and I've watched slowly over time them all progress. I've watched Caltrans be a very stern post, and they wouldn't budge an inch. But a lot of us were just yelling and screaming, pissed off. I'm just going to say it. We were pissed off. We were mad. We were yelling. We're cursing. How dare you do this to our neighborhoods? And that's because a lot of us didn't understand how all this works. You know, we're finally going to get a light here in Pearblossom, and we started that about 5 years ago. And when you told me 5 years ago, Osama, that it was going to take that long, I was not happy, was I? But I had to grow up a little bit. I had to help my communities grow up. So today, when we have our Q&A, I want everyone to come from a place of love and understanding. How are you going to teach your neighbor? Or how are us neighbors going to teach our fellow road designers, our state representatives, our highway patrol, what's really important to us? Because no matter how angry I am with what happens on that highway, I can't tie it to any one of them. They're all doing their little piece. Now, if our pieces are broken, well, shoot, that's why we're here today. We're here to figure out those broken pieces. We're here to realize that we have over 100 years in this county. We have 100 years worth of road patrol, 100 years worth of design, 100 years of county people, all these different entities. Now we're all overlapping. There we are. Now here we are. So, Caltrans, thank you for coming out, especially in numbers. It really shows that our situation here on Death Trap Highway, and I'll call it that because it's been named that my whole entire life, or Bloody Alley. Maybe in the next decade, we could truly see all these numbers taper down, even though we have increased trucks. We've increased traffic flow. We've increased all of these things. And progression has happened. We're humans. We've been to the moon. We've been all over this planet. We've done so many amazing things. We can get over a road design. We can't convince anyone to slow the hell down, but we're going to do our best to make sure that we have objects that can, or allow community members that can cross our roads safely. So this is a great collaboration, not just between the community concerned members that are here, but by our law enforcement who have data, who live that highway every day along with us, our designers who help implement safety. And then also, we have county here, who have our county streets. Just because it's a county road and a state road doesn't mean safety stops, or that's their jurisdiction, that's their jurisdiction. We've heard that in the past. And it needs to be like that no longer. There's 15 dead people just within this 1 mile stretch of Pearblossom since construction started. That's almost 2 a year. That's pretty rough. Those are really rough numbers. That doesn't account for anything in Little Rock or even over towards Big Rock Creek and 165th. So we've established that we have a very dangerous spot. Mr. Carrillo's office is here. Eric, thank you for coming out. I'm going to pass the mic to you next. If we can help our elected officials help us, then we need to teach Carrillo's office the dangers we face every day. And if he can provide us with legislation or funding or anything that can assist us, we need to make sure it's very clear on how he can assist us. So Eric, thank you for being here. It means a lot that Carrillo's office is sitting here in this little town hall along with the other state entities and county entities. Because if we can get some legislation to either pay for some short-term emergency improvements, safety measures, that's a great first small step. If we can get our corridor, Little Rock and Pearblossom, actually designated as business districts, maybe we could actually have our speeds reduced because they're designated business districts, and we can reflect the communities of Lone Pine and Bishop, which we highly admire in this community, especially being along these mountains. We're the miniature LA version of the 395. We could only be so proud to have a little community where people slow down, build up our commerce. We would love that. We had a 2-lane highway before. It was a little kind of easy to bring people in. Now it's just choo, 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 choo. So it's become a little tougher. So let's get a business district. And if there's some sort of verbiage out there that Carrillo's office can help us with to reduce the speed, or allow Caltrans to have a formula to reduce speed instead of increasing it through a traffic survey, then that's something we need to do for the safety of not just this town, but probably up and down this whole entire state. So I'd like to thank you once more time for everybody for coming out today. It's very, very important. My daughter lives here, 3 daughters, sons, they live here, and those of you who don't, y'all pass through here. And you intermingle with our lives. So here we are, let's settle in some things. I'm hoping at the end of all this today, we'll have a few short-term solutions. Then I'm hoping after that, now we've identified these things, we'll actually go into a little bit more in-depth talks with Caltrans and Carrillo's office and Barger's office, the county. We actually sit down and really start coming up with a plan to have these overlapping issues. Not just in the general meeting because someone died last month, rest in peace. We should not be here right now because of those 6 people that died. At all. We should just be here because we want to make our communities better. So that's what we're doing. So the 6 that died just outside of that bubble of R15, and then the others, rest in peace to all of them. Let's not let their deaths be in vain. Let's let their future family members know that we learned something from their deaths. Whether it was some jerk's fault, one of their fault, or none of their faults. There's many things we can learn from this. It's not just road design. It's not just CHP. It's not just county crossings. It's all of them. So I'm going to open this meeting up. Eric, you're going to have the mic, and he's from Juan Carrillo's office. But I'm sorry.
It's Romeo first, actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what I thought.
Okay. I apologize.
Oh, did we?
Janet, I'm going to let you come on up here.
He doesn't
No, it's
have an
okay, just
agenda.
Romeo.
Romeo, come on out. I apologize about that. I just totally.
Oh, no worries. Terrific seeing you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me here. I wish I was this tall.
It is wireless.
It's
adjustable.
Okay, good. So I have a survey that's going around right now. There's a few paper copies in the back. We also have a QR code if you prefer the electronic version. But essentially, when we last met, I think it was last month, we were going over one of our projects there on 138 between 72nd and 77th. As part of that project, or as part of the survey actually, we wanted to get the community's input on what the appetite is for bicycle pedestrian improvements. So if a protected bike lane is something that the community wants, we'd love to hear about it. If it's something you really don't want, we also want to hear about it. What type of pedestrian improvements would you like to see? Sidewalks, wide sidewalks, extra crossings, any type of those things, we'd love to hear about it. So again, this is just a really brief intro to the survey, but I'll hang back if you had any specific questions on some of the elements we're looking at. There's a couple poster boards in the back that kind of goes over some of the alternatives, but again, nothing set in stone. We really want to hear from the community. The surveys are there, and then yeah, I'll be available if there's anyone that has any questions. So thank you all for having me tonight.
Thank you. All right, now it's your turn, Eric. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric Olson. I'm District Director for Assemblymember Juan Carrillo. Thank you for inviting us. But this is a very important conversation. Bloody Alley should not be the name of our road. It's like a rock alley name or a gladiator pit. It shouldn't be the name of a road in our own community. It's horrendous. So you said educate us on the dangers. We know, we're well aware of the dangers. So after those lives were lost in April, we drafted a letter to the director of Caltrans. I won't read it to you. If you want to read what the assembly member wrote, you can find it on his Facebook page. It was posted on April 30th. But we're well aware, right? So I don't know if you know Assemblymember Juan Carrillo's district. The easiest way to say it is it's the 14 to the 15, right? So we have the Antelope Valley and Victor Valley. And there's two ways to get there. 138, or Palmdale Boulevard, to 240 to El Mirage. And that's not that safe either. So as district director, when I have to cover two different offices, I don't look forward to it. It's uncomfortable at best. So we're very engaged. So the letter we wrote, we got a response back from Caltrans. We're very happy with that. The conversation is opened up. What we believe that we need to do, step number one, is designate the safety corridor, right? Because that, first of all, if we designated the safety corridor through legislation, the very first thing it'll do is trigger more funds for CHP to be able to have a bigger presence. And so we're looking at that. But this whole idea that the state doesn't want to invest more into highways isn't going to work for us, right? We have a dangerous road. We need grade separations from the 14 to the 15. We need to prevent these accidents. So I'm just here today to not give a lecture or blame anybody, but to say we're engaged and we're willing to have this conversation, and our office is willing to do whatever it takes to improve the lives of everybody in our community. I'm probably leaving out a lot. If you have questions for me, I guess I can answer them. But just know you have a partner in the Assembly Member's Office. Thank you. Yeah, please do.
So my name is Susie Calderon. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Mr. Olson, for being here. I would just want to say, as we're listening to some of the guest speakers here tonight, if you could write down your questions, maybe, and be able to just think about it as we talk, and then that way, Thank you. Just go ahead and feel free to write it down on the ethics part that you provided so that we can ask the questions at the end. There might be something that's, in your mind, so thank you.
All right, we have some members from Caltrans. I'm gonna let them come up. I'm not sure who's gonna do what in what order. So, there you go.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chris, for your opening remarks. Really appreciate them. So again, good evening. I'd like to thank you for having us here today to have an opportunity to talk to you with regards to what we can do collectively to enhance safety on this stretch of highway here. I'm Rafael Molina. I'm the Deputy District Director for the Division of Transportation Safety and Operations at Caltrans District 7, which encompasses both Los Angeles and Ventura counties. And so before I get into my slide deck tonight, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the lives that were lost recently and just to offer my sincere condolences to anybody that may have been impacted by that. So with that, let me dive into what we're going to be discussing tonight. Question?
Is this better? You got to speak into the front of the mic.
Is this better?
There you go.
Yes. How much of what you didn't hear should I cover again? Very cool. All right, so thank you. Okay, so these are the topics for tonight. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Caltrans' commitment to safety. Then I'm going to talk about some of the crash data that we've already analyzed. And then I'm going to talk about the next steps in terms of what we can do moving forward. So at Caltrans, we have a strategic plan. If you read carefully, or if you can see the test your eyesight, it says our plan goes from 2020 through 2024. So we're actually working on an update to our current strategic plan. But regardless, in this current state that we're in, safety is our #1 strategic goal. And when we move forward to our next strategic plan, safety will continue to be at the forefront of all of our activities. And with regards to safety, what that really means is that we're looking to eliminate all fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. So again, our goal is 0. So that means that what we've done in the past, or what we've done currently, isn't good enough, and we have to do more. And I think the experiences that we've heard earlier kind of suggest to that we still have opportunities to do more. And that's what we're here for, to talk about what we are doing now and what we can look forward to doing collectively in the near future. At Caltrans, we believe in the 4 pillars of traffic safety. The first item here speaks about doubling down on what works. I'll go into a little bit more detail with regards to what that means later, but it talks about implementing proven safety countermeasures. These are things that we know have proven history of being successful in terms of realizing some safety benefits. Also talks about accelerating advanced technology. That's really more applicable to traditional freeway settings, but if there's opportunities for us to implement advanced technology in this setting, we'll do that here as well. Implement a safe system approach, and there's a couple principles with regards to that, but one of them speaks to the fact that we're trying to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries. It also talks about the fact that safety is a shared responsibility. As Chris mentioned earlier, it's not just your government from, let's say, a Caltrans perspective, because we are responsible for that highway. It's not just law enforcement, but it's also the road users, because we can design, construct a facility that's going to encourage people to drive at a certain speed, but ultimately it's up to each one of us to observe the speed limit and for us to drive with good, proper behavior. So we shouldn't be driving if we're tired, drowsy, sleepy. We shouldn't be driving if we're under the influence, etc. So that responsibility is shared amongst all of us. Certainly here, I'm representing the government, so I'll speak about that government component of it. And lastly, integrate equity, that's also another component of our strategic plan. So we're into addressing to all the communities that we serve, not just the ones that are closest to downtown. So this slide here kind of highlights where the collisions occurred last month that resulted in those fatalities. At this point in time, we don't really have much detailed information about what transpired. It takes us sometimes several months for us to get the traffic collision reports. And from the traffic collision reports, we can glean good information with regards to what transpired. We can understand the primary collision factors. Was speeding the cause? Was there poor visibility? Was the roadway wet? We can understand the root causes of those collisions. So at this point, we don't have much more information other than what's been reported in the media. From what I understand, collision number one, there may have been a driver there that was under the influence. I'll say allegedly, because I don't know for a fact, but that was what was reported in the media. The second collision, apparently there was a semi-trailer that was parked on the shoulder area, and it was rear-ended by somebody in a van. Again, those are the ones in this proximity. This proximity here. Too soon to understand if they're related in terms of whether roadway conditions contributed to that, or if it was just, bad. I don't want to say bad luck, but unfortunate circumstances that led to those collisions. The other one, don't have much information about that one yet either, short of what's available publicly in the news media. So at Caltrans, we have all sorts of collision data. We've been going through it. That work is ongoing. But we have some programs that kind of flag elements for us so that we can do additional studies, and that's what our team is working on, and we'll continue to do that effort. So the first item speaks to bicyclist systemic improvement program. So we understand that there's 4 locations within the entirety of the stretch of Route 138 within LA County that had issues related to bicycles. Crossover monitoring program, again, we have 3 locations that have been flagged that have had basically head-on type of collisions. High collision concentration locations, that looks at data that speaks to specific spots where we've had more collisions than typical, what would be expected on average, let's say. We do understand that on the whole, State Route 138, there are higher than average number of collisions in terms of collision rates, including fatals and injuries. So we understand that there's a need for us to do more, as I mentioned earlier. We also have item number 4, pedestrian and high crash concentration locations. There were 3 locations. And although it does say that there's a lot of locations there, our team has already investigated several of these, or many of these. We've already identified improvements for many of these. And in fact, I'll highlight an improvement that we did in the city of Palmdale that addressed 2 of the locations identified in number 4. And then the last 2, runoff road. So there weren't any locations that identified anybody going off the road. We do have rumble strips in a lot of different places, so that kind of helps alert drivers that they're drifting, if you will. Wrong-way driver systemic improvement program. So thankfully, we haven't had any people that have been identified that was going the wrong way that involved a crash. The team has also plotted the collisions, these are the fatal collisions, for the last 5-year period of data available. So that period concluded in 2023. So I think if the map would say from 2018 to 2023. So we're looking at where the collisions have occurred. We're looking to plot some of the other elements on this map here so we can see where the hot spots are occurring, and then we can do a deeper dive with regards to analyzing the road conditions in that area and hopefully identifying mitigation for that from a safety perspective. So I mentioned earlier about proven safety countermeasures. The Federal Highway Administration has identified 28 of them, and they're kind of divided into different categories. The first category is speed management. I'll just read through them quickly. Pedestrian, bicyclist, roadway departure, and intersections. There's actually another category where it could be a combination. It talks about cross-cutting, so a combination of different elements that it's not specific to any one of these, but it's just all over the board. So these are just some examples of the types of things that we could be looking at implementing here. Obviously, there's some 22 other elements, but I wanted to fit it in this chart. So the first one, speed management. So obviously, speeding is a major concern. So we're also in the process of evaluating the current speeds and seeing if there's opportunities for us to reduce them within the existing law. And if there isn't something we can do with the existing law, maybe with the help through legislation, there may be additional opportunities for us to lower the speed limits. And I heard something about designating them as a business corridor, maybe things like that can also give us that flexibility that we need to lower the speeds. but I don't want to say that that's going to solve all our issues. As I was suggested earlier, it's that shared responsibility, because we can lower the speed, but ultimately, unless the roadway is configured differently, every single driver needs to respect the posted speed. One of my colleagues earlier, Roman, talked about pedestrian or bicyclist kind of improvements. So we do have opportunities here to make improvements so that people can cross the road safer or ride their bikes if that's what the community wants to do. Roadway departure, we can look at opportunities for better delineating or providing signage to alert drivers if there's curvatures in the roadway. I know here there's a lot of horizontal curves. Maybe it's easy to navigate at night, or maybe it isn't, depending on the road conditions. So that's something that we're evaluating to see if we can make them more conspicuous. Intersections, there's an example here. This one here. So this would be like a side street that's basically joining State Route 138. And so we're working with the county to see if there's opportunities for us to provide enhanced delineation, enhanced signage to better alert motorists that, hey, look, you're approaching a major intersection, you should be stopping. So we're working with the county to see what else we can do in addition to improvements on our own on the state highway system. And maybe there's opportunities for us to implement roundabouts to, again, further calm speed. Because if the roadway looks the way that it does, us lowering the speed limit, that's probably not going to be enough. There needs to be some changes in the roadway configuration itself to really encourage people or force drivers to actually slow down. Maybe there's opportunities for us to add traffic signals, as was mentioned earlier. Some of these can take several years to implement, sadly, just because of the way that it works, but if there's opportunities for us to accelerate like an emergency project or something, we'll also evaluate that. I mentioned earlier that there was technically two locations that dealt with pedestrian fatalities. This is actually at the intersection of 138 and 2nd Street East. This is in the city of Palmdale. So this is work that was completed recently, and here we were able to address a location, technically two locations at this one spot. So we provided a new traffic signal, enhanced visibility in crosswalks, and ADA compliant curb ramps. So this is an example of some of the work that we've been doing here in this general vicinity, but again, this isn't about what we've done, it's about what we still can do and still need to do. So along those lines, in terms of next steps, so my team has a wealth of data that they still need to complete their analysis on. So we're targeting the end of August or early September to complete our analysis of all the collisions of all those locations that were identified there. After analyzing that data, we'll have an understanding in terms of what kind of projects or short-term improvements we can implement, or maybe some of that materializes into more longer-term improvements where they have to be programmed into our capital delivery program. And so I think, if you'll give us a couple months to work on this, we can certainly provide you updates between now and the end of August or September. And certainly, later this year, we can certainly come back and say, hey, look, these are the improvements that we've identified. This is what we're targeting to implement, and these may be the potential timeframes as to how we or when we can implement these things. The next slice of pie here talks about continuing engagement and collaboration. So that engagement and collaboration is with you here in the community, with our partners, with the LA Department of Public Works, the county, they're here. We also have representatives from LA Metro, they're here as well. So we work together on a number of different data arenas. This is one of them, and we look forward to engaging them to, again, enhance safety for all the users here on Route 138. And lastly, once our analysis is completed, we'll have an identification of the types of improvements we can look to implement, and that's the very last pie slice there that speaks about pursuing safety improvements. So with that, thank you. Happy to field any questions. I have team members here that are maybe a little more familiar with the route themselves, but happy to take any questions and continue the dialogue.
Does anybody want to ask?
Are they thinking about putting a hard divider down the middle to prevent, we just lost our son not 4 months ago on 138 and 170. We were just at the house we had people helping us move a couch which got stuck, so I'm sorry we're late. But
the short answer
he
is
probably had somebody come into his lane and he was avoiding it because he was going straight and then had to veer and went off the side. Are they thinking about doing anything like that?
yeah, first let me say I'm sorry for your loss, and
Thank
I
you.
really mean that. In terms of what we can consider there, at this point, let me just say that all the options are on the table. We still have the analysis to do, so I'm not gonna stand here and say, we're not doing this, or we're not doing that, or we'll do this or do that. I want this to be, for my team, for it to be a data-driven process to complete our analysis, and then once we do that, we'll understand what's possible and what isn't. With regards to the safety program, there's certain things that are doable, there's certain things that aren't doable from a funding perspective. And so once we understand what we can do with regards to the safety program, there's also, in some cases, like a safety index that needs to be met that looks at the traffic volumes, looks at collision rates, et cetera. And depending on that, then maybe we can fund certain types of improvements. So I don't want to be too technical right now, but as far as I'm concerned, all the options on the table, as I mentioned earlier, I believe as an organization, we believe in safety, and to get to zero, we have to do more than we've done in the past. So if there's something that we can do, we will do. Question number one.
Yeah, we moved up here from Ventura. We go to Pearblossom now. We've seen improvements in Caltrans being on 126. We need to see some similar improvements out here now. The other day, we got 5 lanes of traffic with the central median. Oaks traffic was flowing freely both ways. We had a car pass in the central median with about 110 miles an hour. I was on private lane and just went for miles.
All the time.
Yeah, no, actually, I can sympathize with that. Even like driving here, I was driving a company car, and we're like all opposition is always tracked 24/7 whenever we're driving them, so they know how to speed. So I was observing the speed limit, and while I was observing the speed limit, I was being passed by semi-trucks. So I can feel like the angst that the community has, because even just driving here, I experienced that myself, and just in a short stretch. So I know that there is opportunities, if not a need, for us to do something to manage the speeds better here. So that's what we're here for, because we understand that there's opportunities / needs for us to do something. Yes, question.
Just got a little curious question about, we go back to the 80s. You go back, just a little curiosity about,
Yeah.
you go back to the slide where you put Caltrans, fixed Second Street or County Boulevard. What was the time between the month that you guys took to speak to the office to analyze the data and actually start, how many months did it take?
Sure.
Years?
So the question refers to like the Second Street at Drive 138, how long did it take? That was done through our minor program, so it was a project that cost less than $1 million. So that was delivered in a faster kind of way. But despite that, I would suggest that it still took several years to implement. Jamal, I don't know if you may recall when the traffic investigation permit had been completed, or when we actually went into construction. But I don't have the details in front of me. I can certainly get back to you or something. I don't know if you remember like how long it took for
No,
those
actually,
specifics.
I could recall the signal on 126. What happened is we initiated, for that signal, we initiated the work in around October of 2022. We were able to put a project quickly together, and it took us like at least, or I think it was about 18 months. However, the problem is we got unlucky because when we opened bids, we had a bid protest, so we had to re-advertise the contract. So that's why we are having kind of a delay. So you could say about 2 years if it's a minor project.
Yeah, and so with that, we have a specific size of, let's say, pot of money when it comes to the minor program. And so because that pot of money is so small, this is just like a handful of $1 million, there is a finite amount of work that we can actually do. And so when we have, let's say, smaller scale improvements, then we've already have like our work plan already identified for the next 2-3 years. And so when something new pops up, then the issue then is that particular improvement more important than the other ones that were already in the pipeline? And if it is, then sometimes we have to bump something else off. But when it comes to the minor program, let's say we identify a need to do something today. At this point, our fiscal years are from July through June. So our fiscal year is ending, so everyone will begin. So the workload for the minor program for next fiscal year, starting July 2024, has already been identified. So if we're starting something new, unless there's like some sort of drastic kind of emergency type of thing, we would probably need to start it, like, let's say the work sometime in 2025, and that would be like a design work, and it would likely go into construction in 2026 kind of timeframe. But I don't want to like say too much because I don't know what the projects or the improvements might look like here. But once we come back, let's say in a couple of months, we'll have an idea to say, hey, look, maybe we found 2 locations, 3 locations, whatever, where we think signals are appropriate, and what the time frame might be for the implementation of those. With regards to signals, they can be a little tricky because they look at traffic volumes, not just along, let's say Route 138, but we're also looking into the traffic volumes from the cross streets, and in terms of collecting traffic volumes, that might be something else that might delay like the signal analysis. For signals, we need to complete traffic signal warrants, and we have to meet those warrants, and there's different things, let's say categories that we need to meet. And there is like a safety component to it, but it's primarily more of a traffic operations kind of thing. So, like I said, we can come back and share our findings with you and with the proposed improvements at that point, and then give you some better information as to how long it might take for us to implement any one of those things. I thought I saw another hand. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I have a chart here I got, I don't know where, but a few years ago, it's called the High Desert Transportation Summit State Route 138 Corridor Improvements Projects. And it lists the projects and when they're supposed to be completed and the price it's going to cost. But the first project on here was the LA 14 to the San Bernardino County Highway 18. So they call it expressway or freeway. Why wasn't that done first instead of spending all the money on the smaller project? Hurt most of the traffic on the freeway. Why wasn't that done? And that was they had quoted $3 million to do that. Well, how much it costs all to do all these little jobs that don't seem to be working. Let's look at the slaughter out here. And why don't they, and that freeway, the route's been on the map, there's some really old maps of the valley, and they showed us the freeway. It's been there, I don't know if the state owns the property or the problem getting easements or whatever. But why wasn't that done first? Instead of all these little projects like put the 4-lane, and all they do is when you turn it to the 4-lane in, like they use that these new medians as a passing lane.
For the shoulder.
On the shoulder, they do the shoulder to pick up dust and rocks. And the other thing is the speed. The speed has increased so much over the last few years. If you go 55 on 138, you're going to go off the road. These people just gotta go. They gotta go. They gotta go. And why is the highway patrol enforcing more of the speed laws along here? So that's my question.
Could I touch on that real quick? Could I look at your section that you're referring to, and maybe we might be able to answer that a little better?
I don't know where I got it, but I don't know.
Yes.
So I think you're referring to the high desert
The high
corridor.
desert corridor.
So I can touch on that real
But they
quick.
showed all the stuff on that was to be done on here, 138, all the projects.
So the high desert corridor was on the map since the 60s, I believe.
Yeah.
And what was supposed to happen with that, I'll just let's just put it this way. We have this thing called CEQA, that the state environmental something or other, they shut that idea down. Why? Well, they
The
thought
environment, the animals.
too many cars on the road.
Instead, hundreds of people get killed on 138.
So that was part of awareness of what we're at today. They didn't want to pass that. There's no corridor for truck traffic, increased truck traffic, or all the volume going across. So since that didn't get approved, the reason why they had to do all these tiny sections is they can't do it all at once. So they had to do these little sections, and 138, since that's the only designated state highway, and I believe you guys don't own any land over there where that corridor is. So you don't own that yet. All that still had to be mitigated if it passed all the CEQA, which it didn't. The only thing that got approved to go from there to here is a train.
Yes.
That's it. They didn't want the 8-lane freeway. And that would've went right up Palmdale Boulevard,
Yeah, I
off
know.
of P, Palmdale Boulevard, right out to county line.
Yeah, I know.
But that's why that didn't get put in, and that would've been way more than $3 million, that would've been whooping.
That was.
Actually, yeah, just to add to what you are saying, Chris, and by the way, I have our partner here, Mr. Robert Machuca from Metro, and myself and Robert happens to be managing that high desert corridor, just were asking us about. And actually, we dropped the highway. Why? It's temporarily dropped. Why? Because the cost is huge. It's the project initially got approved, CEQA approved, but NEPA, which is what we call it, the ROD, record of decision, we cannot get it because there is no money available for subsequent phases to the environmental phase. And the cost was tremendous, including the railroad, the express rail, plus the highway. The cost was about $13 to $16 billion back in 2016 dollars. So if you are talking now, probably it's like over 20 billion.
That's what the estimate was on here, $3 million. But if you add up all the costs for these little projects, it equals out more than that. And it hasn't done anything to improve the safety of the
Actually, these 3 billion that you see here, it was just a placeholder. And when we did the engineering work, we found out that it's gonna cost, again, between 13 to 16 billion.
How much are people fighting for?
Sorry, it's not just the cost. I'm also on the High Desert Corridor JPA, which we're working to bring the train to fruition there. There was a lawsuit. So environmental groups sued the JPA to try to stop things. So the lawsuit, we carried it on past all of our lifetime. So in the meantime, the best thing we could do is agree to run a train across that. And so what we're going to
Check it out, the environment, we have the fact that you're gonna disturb the turtles.
well, that is an issue.
No,
We're going through that right
It's more
now.
important.
And then the federal rules have changed too. They won't give the environmental clearance until all the design is done now. So it's bureaucracy, and I know it's frustrating, and I know that it feels like you're putting a price tag on people's lives.
You are.
It's frustrating to us that you have to go through the motions that you have to go through. The environmental groups have to be satisfied, or they will continue to sue, they will continue to delay. You'll be 3 million deep just to be told it's not possible.
The group is called Climate Resolve, and they sued the contractor.
But as the Animal Valley grows and as the Victor Valley grows, the need for a freeway is going to exist. And so I don't think that it's anything that anybody's giving up on.
No, I don't think it's so much the growth of the two valleys, it's the traffic that comes up through here. People say, well, you go up to 138 to go to Vegas or whatever. So a lot of people, I've noticed, I drive it a lot. I live out, and I've been driving it for 30-some years. And I notice the traffic keeps increasing, and it's just people using 138 instead of going out, the 10 to the 15 or that way to go east. So it's not so much the growth here in the two valleys, it's just the traffic. I mean, it's gotten crazy. And another thing I might ask is Caltrans people. Over in Pinion Hills, which is in San Bernardino County on 138, they put a traffic light there at Oasis Road. And what it does is, Oasis is just a small road, but there's a little bit of local traffic on it. It also takes that one car come up there, the sensors pick them up, they turn the red light, or the light red for 138. Everybody has to stop, and there's a grade going to the east, and all these semis stop, and they have to pick them on again. And then you go there in the afternoon, and you got to back up into LA County stop. It's a mess. It really is. So that light, just to let a few people out of the post office, it's really insane. And then it has to go, it's a three-way light, so it has to recycle through all that. And meanwhile, you got all these cars and trucks backing up into LA County, dead stop. If you go there now, you'd see it.
Well, one truck gets you what? One
Truck,
truck can
yeah.
get you the light and then
And
it's
then it
ready.
changes.
It takes about an hour. to
It's
get
absolutely
downtown.
ridiculous that that light went in like that.
Yeah.
For a few people that think they make the right turn, and But you can't now because the traffic is backed up solid. Every day.
There used to be a truck lane there, didn't there?
No.
For slower trucks going up that hill?
No.
No?
Well, it's,
Past them.
yeah, at the top there is, once you get over the hill, okay, that turns into 4 lanes. But it's 2 lanes going up this
I know exactly what spots you're talking about, and
Alright.
it's not, and I'll relay the exact ordinance to him, because I have faced a similar issue there. And right where we're at, we actually have 2 Caltrans districts that kind of meet.
Yeah, I know, as I said, it's in San Bernardino County, I didn't know these guys do anything about it. I'm just expressing concern. It was still ridiculous to put that light in there like that. It just caused such a big traffic jam.
We had
And
a,
then get these idiots to get impatient, that pass down the center of the Indian.
Yep.
They put through Indian Hills, there's absolutely nothing. They widen it, which is still 2 lanes, but now they have a center median going down. So these idiots use that for a passing lane.
yeah, and unfortunately, we can't stop those people, but one thing I can say, we brought up a similar issue to District 7 about Longview right here, like, after they did the construction and they had to set their light. And it took probably about 3 months to dial in the timing. And they were out here every other week. They came on a Friday, came on a Sunday. Everything that we brought up as locals, here's our hot times, here's the issues that we're facing.
That doesn't seem to be a problem. Like your Longview, that works pretty good.
It didn't happen overnight.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to express, now that you brought that location up, I believe these guys are gonna go back, and even though it's not in District 7,
They could get the word out.
they would get the word out. So thank you for bringing out the word on that specific location, and I'll back that.
A good friend of mine was the honorary mayor of Freeland, and he tried to get something done in the county. The county said, that's Caltrans, we can't do anything about it. So he took it to Caltrans, so the word is out. And all you have to do is just go there any afternoon and see the backup. It's ridiculous.
So along those lines, thank you for sharing the location. I'll confirm the location with him as well.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not, let's say, my district
I
per
know
se.
it's not.
No, but we are one Caltrans, and we are serving the community at large. So I'll share that with my counterparts so that they can
But it's one of
look
the
into it.
dumb things that Caltrans has done. I'm not after you.
Wasn't our district. no
I
worries.
know you have nothing to do with it, I know that, but it's just one of the crazy things that get done.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yeah, I'm happy to share that with our colleagues.
Okay.
So they can investigate further.
If you guys put K-rails along that median, there won't be people going into the median. I know the CHP likes to use the median to turn around, but they could put them in strategic spots so that way they can turn around if they need to. But people are getting killed head-on in other areas where there are no K-rails because they pass indiscriminately and people get hit head-on.
So that's the kind of feedback that I think is, let's say, helpful for us, and I hope my team's taking notes. So, because it's like we can understand like the data in terms of what it might say, we can understand the road conditions, and certainly my team comes to the field. I've been out here myself before, and in terms of like, and in terms of really fully understanding what it's like on a 24/7 basis, that's where engaging with you and understanding with you better in terms of the idiosyncrasies in terms of, hey, well, every Wednesday something happens here for whatever reason, or, you know, as mentioned earlier, we understand that there's a lot of traffic that goes to Las Vegas and comes back, so if we come out here and collect traffic volumes on a Tuesday, it's not gonna be the same thing as if we come out here on a weekend and collect the volumes. So, interacting with you and understanding what it's really like here on a 24/7 basis, that's useful information that we can use and take so that we can come up with better strategies to better address the issues that we have.
I want to share from experience when it comes to pointing out these hot spots. We see them every day, we live them every day, and they're pretty normal to us. And most of us can close our eyes and pick out one of these spots. They're not from here, so sometimes it takes a while to teach them. And we can't learn right away, but we can learn fast, and I've seen a lot of these guys in the last 3 years step way more further than we have ever seen in the past 15 combined. So when you guys go home, talk to your neighbors. Get 5 people together to say, this is the spot. Chris, what's the number to this office so I can make sure that this spot is reported by these 5 people? And you have your 5, and you have your 5. That helps us speed it up a little bit. Also, when we're trying to point these things out, there's a lot of people in this valley. A lot of people that use the valley, like you pointed out, sir. Those people want to be able to travel through here fast. So they're Californians saying, I want to come through here fast, I should have this. And we determined we don't have the corridor and we're stuck with this section right now. So our focus is obviously our hard short-term goals. So head-on collisions is a pretty big thing out here. And it has nothing to do with just the few that we've had. There's near misses every day. Every single day. I was almost in one last month. A near miss. Someone coming around the corner. Pretty sure this died again. Someone coming around the corner.
Oh, there it is.
Someone coming around the corner and they're looking at their phone. Now, I'm going to agree. If we had something in the middle, it might wake them up. So who remembers about 10 years ago when we had all the channelizers up and down the 138? That's those little white markers. They split the road right in half. No passing. And who were the best culprits that ended that right away? Because we couldn't keep putting up these channelizers. Obviously, it probably cost a lot of money. I'd watch semi trucks go right over and take them all out. And at first I thought they were doing it on accident, but then you can kind of realize people were taking them out on purpose because they didn't want to have a divider in there. So there's proof right there that those channelizers stopped a lot of people from crossing over. But they were flimsy for the job. So if we have a freeway, all of our freeways have the big K-rail like you're talking about. That's a hard divide. So when you guys go back and you do your analysis, I think what everyone here feels every day is if we could have a hard divide in some of our spots, that might be worthy. We just put one in off of Pearblossom Highway as you approach from 4 Points, let's say 40th Street East, a little past that, as you curve right up into 25th and Barrel Springs. That's not yours. The section, Palmdale County and Caltrans, I think, share that corridor. I'm not sure who owns that specific spot, but someone thought it was a really good idea to put in that hard divide. So I think a lot of the community members would probably appreciate a little bit harder divide. And I think in our long-term talks, that's something that would be warranted in some of our areas, especially if we have people we can't really slow down, especially in the long 4, 5, 10 mile stretches. That would just kind of say, okay, you're going to hit the wall, or you're going to go into a Joshua tree. We have a lot of head-ons out by 160, but there's quite a few out there. There's a lot of people who are on their way home from Vegas. So maybe a hard divide might work. Eric?
Can I say something to close?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I just want to close the loop on that thought about the High Desert Corridor, right? Because I am on that JPA. And the lawsuits by the environmental groups put a damper on that, for sure, at best. Assemblyman Carrillo's office is working with local environmental groups to try to get them to budge, to try to make them happy. We want to designate a preserve or different things. We don't have the answers, but we're engaging them to see what is acceptable to them, because we know as the communities grow, that's eventually going to be needed. The good thing about the train, I don't know if you read the announcement of the construction of Brightline that's going from Rancho Cucamonga to Vegas, right? So the city of Palmdale lost out on being that destination hub to Rancho Cucamonga. So our goal, I'm also on the North County Transportation Committee, our goal is to work with MetroLink to double track, put an express lane, because if we can get it easier for people from LA and the San Fernando Valley to get to Palmdale than it is for them to get to Rancho Cucamonga, they will come to Palmdale. Brightline will be that connector. We will get folks on the train to Vegas. The more folks we get on the train to Vegas, the more cars we get off our roads.
Is that going to be financed by China? The lineup?
You've been doing your research.
Okay.
In a series of different shells.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. But it's important to our community. It will bring growth to our community if we do that. It will bring safety to that. So that point aside, I don't think that that's an idea that anybody is going to fully let die. We are focused on the train because we do see the benefit to it. But the other thing that I want to say real quick is how communication is the key, right? I was in the military during 9/11, and when I heard this agency knew this and this agency knew this, you go, how in the hell did that happen? And now that I'm in government, I went, oh yeah, they weren't talking to each other. That's just not a thing in government. But we need to get better at that. And like we said, a lot of the folks from Caltrans aren't from here, but I'm here, right? So I'm on North County Transportation. I'm on ADTA. I'm on High Desert Corridor. I'm, at the end of this month, leaving the district director position for Juan Carrillo, but I've agreed to stay on to be his transportation person. That being said, I'm here. Transportation is my world at the moment. So I will give everybody my card so that you can express your concerns to me so that I can work with CHP and Caltrans and Chris and the town council, because the better we communicate, the better we're gonna have for success.
One other question real quick. You say the environmentalists winning all these lawsuits, prevent the freeways and on. What if we all got together and sued the environmentalists?
That's quite the idea, and I've thought about that, and we've talked about it, not here officially, but I'd like
I
to.
don't know. Yeah, we can sue them for preventing the freeway going in, and for people like this that lost their son, was your son?
Yeah.
You know, people like that, you know, is it worth, saving a bush or something out there?
I mean, that's an idea. The thing is, litigation is expensive. Who's gonna pay for that? Who's got the time to go through that? So what I'm suggesting is,
They do.
nobody's given up on that idea. We'll continue to work with those environmental groups. We'll continue to try to push the idea. But to get the High Desert Corridor, even if it was a freeway, it's not gonna happen in our lifetimes. My son's 6 years old, he'll be 60 before that can even happen. So what I suggest is, we'll never give up on that idea. But the conversation we should be having is, how can we make things safer now? How can we make it safe quickly? And this conversation is what's gonna do that.
Agreed.
You guys are busy all the time, but these speeders are going nuts. I say, well, no, we need more enforcement for one thing. They're causing these problems. They're doing all sort of illegal crossing left and right. And if you go 55, 60, you got out of your tail, and you're a threat.
I've had conversations with the captain. I believe he would love to do more enforcement, but they don't have the funding, they don't have the recruitment, they don't have the personnel. It's a mess right now, not just for CHP, but for all law enforcement. So what I'm suggesting is, we are going to continue to push towards all those ideas. But this conversation right now is the quickest path to success. But I will give everybody my card, so all the questions and concerns and thoughts can come to me, and I'll work with everybody to make sure that we're all communicating.
I'm gonna give you one more question, and we gotta move
Okay,
on.
one of the most dangerous places that I've been having trouble with is coming down 121 and trying to go into Little Rock. There's no place for us to rest, and they come around that corner. And then also coming home, there's no turn lanes, so when I'm trying to turn to 121 to go up the hill, I've got people going 60 miles an hour, slamming their brakes on and almost rear-ending me.
So you're a multiple person that's brought that up, so.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Every time someone justifies, it's not just Chris yelling about one spot, now it's Chris and everyone else. So, I like to, just recognize that that corner right there is one of the spots that are on his list. And where, the accident happened a few miles up the street. is on that list as well. So those are in that review. And I'm hoping by August that they can have their official reviews, and August might seem a little far away. I've dealt with you guys for about 6 or 7 years now, and August does not seem that far away for me. If August is a true deadline, I would love for you guys to be able to meet that, and if there's anything we need to do on our end to make that happen, to help facilitate that, or even bring you to some of these spots when you do your investigations. I have a team of people that are very aware of the rules, the road, and who can really pinpoint most of these accidents for you within our corridor. So as you're doing your investigation, please reach out to us. I know CHP would be able to do the same. They give you more of an official position, we can give you more of a local position. Thank you for your time and your commitment. And I just like everyone here to know that I've never heard Caltrans speak like this before. I haven't.
Is that good or bad?
It's good. It's a good thing. We haven't had a level of commitment from Caltrans like this
In over 6 years.
in a long time. And I've watched their mission statement change a few years back. And if it takes X amount of years to get a traffic light, it might take X amount of years for some of the people within the system to understand the new direction forward. But I see it moving. And I want to recognize it, not just the Caltrans folks that are here, but to the rest of the community. This is a change that we're just not used to. So your directors and the pressure from all of us and every single thing that we brought up, I cried over your son, over the last 2 meetings. You weren't even here.
Thank you.
You guys are my family, my community. I made a commitment. These guys made one to me. Osama made one to me. Jamal made one to me. If it was 6 years ago, I didn't know these guys. And they were just dudes in suits. But it took a while to get into their ear. And sadly, a few bad things have happened. Terrible things. And they're not the only family affected. So, thank you. We're going to move forward. That's it. So I'd like to give you guys a round of applause. Next up, I have CHP, and forgive me, guys, I'm terrible with names, so I'll let you introduce yourselves when you get up here.
Well, I don't exactly have the easiest name, so I'm probably good without the mic. The Marine Corps gave me a voice.
Yeah, I remember you saying that last time.
Someone who's buried his own son, my greatest condolences to you. Not from traffic, unfortunately, in the military. But every loss of life is a tragedy. And that's how I look at it. As Captain Joe Zagorski, I'm the commander for the Antelope Valley area. 1,300 square miles is our jurisdiction. In my office of 40, we're actually increasing our staffing slowly. Up to 43 officers right now. So unfortunately right now the 2 officers are supposed to be in this area. We're actually at 0 and 170th for an injury crash blocking the intersection. So, and that's unfortunately the things that we deal with, but I'm constantly always looking at it, and I always appreciate the feedback from Chris and everyone in the community saying, you are our eyes. So when you're seeing problems and what times they're happening, we're trying to correct human behavior, because all crashes, I'll say 99% of every crash is caused because someone did something they shouldn't have done. And I can go down my own personal opinion on motivation. It's usually selfish, because I want to get there faster, I want to get there quicker, I want to do there's something for me. But, and it comes to everything, not wearing seatbelts, not driving while impaired under either alcohol, drugs, prescription medication. All of these things are factors that we're always dealing with. But I do appreciate the community's energy and willingness to be our eyes. And you do see problems, just like, and we do work very closely with Caltrans. I applaud Caltrans for all the efforts they've been doing. I've been in 4 counties, I've been in 7 area offices. The team of Caltrans individuals for this particular area are going way above and beyond what I've seen in the state of California and in general. So you have a great bunch of people from Caltrans here who are focused on trying to make a difference. We don't want to see any loss of life. I don't want to see any injuries. Last year we had 43 fatal crashes. We don't call them accidents because they're not an accident. But we had 43 fatal crashes that resulted in 50 lives lost. This year we've had 17 crashes that have resulted in loss of life. Not just the ones that happened in this area here. The unfortunate lives lost is much greater. But we have crashes that happen on Angeles Forest, on the 14, on Bouquet, on Avenue D. And I can go on to what I do know the details on the crashes that happened here. And unfortunately, they probably were preventable. Unfortunately. Also be that person when you're seeing things, say something. Don't want people to drive when they make sure everyone's always wearing their seatbelts. But I am looking to get some MRE, what we call them our mobile road enforcement officers, to actually start patrolling the 138. We're also working with supervisor's partner's office to try and get some more signage to tell the trucks they can't drive on some of these roadways. We can't enforce it if there's no sign. So if there's no sign posted as they exit from 138 onto any of these side roads to circumvent Palmdale, Lancaster, and everything else, we can't cite it for being overweight. We have to have the signs posted to enforce it. So we are working with that. I know that by getting the commercial officers here on 138, truckers are going to find alternate routes. I've been dealing with truckers for multiple decades, and it is one entity that I've always drive. They drive they're paid by the minute, not by the mile. But we are working on things in my office. Jordan Church is my new public information officer. He'll be doing a lot, being involved with. He's my arm that does a lot of education. To help make sure everyone in the community understands all the things that go into causing crashes. Because the more people we educate, the more people, we're still going to do enforcement, but we want to try to get as many people to not do it in the first place. I know that I know the 138 how it is. And we're trying to really rein it in. We're trying to rein in a lot of roadways. I can list a litany. As far as if you look actually at the blotter that we use for showing where all crashes happen, it looks like someone shot a target with a bird shot from 30 feet. I would love to see not a single person hurt or killed, not even a car scratched, anywhere in our area. And we are working on it. I will give that promise to you. Jordan can tell you the pressure that his peers are experiencing under me at my office. But I can go pressure. Good pressure. Yeah. So I'm an old salty Marine, so he's being nice. But nonetheless, I want to hear your questions. I can scout statistics and this and that. As far as there's been 600 crashes in our area just this year alone, total. That's all crashes. That's just not injuries and fatals. That's everything. My officers have issued almost 4,000 citations this year. In that time frame, I know we've arrested close to 600 DUIs. And that's all forms of it. Yes, sir.
Two questions.
Yes, sir.
We're coming off 165th, trying to cross 138, and almost every time somebody else runs that light, you have to sit there for about 10 seconds, looking both ways before you decide that you can pull out. Absolutely, it's really dangerous. The second question, being a little facetious here, is there a candy store or something on Avenue B? Because there's always a CHP officer down the end of Avenue B where he can't see the intersection or anything else. He's there for hours at a time. Don't know this for the port, it's a parking spot.
They may be working on reports, but I'll definitely look into that one.
I would appreciate that.
As far as now, because our officers aren't allowed to come back to the office to write reports.
Yeah, I get that. So I'm a former officer myself.
Okay.
And he's down there normally during the day shift. officer wants to do.
No, I appreciate it, but you know what? I need to know what my people are doing too. As far as, we give them a lot of autonomy as a former, as a retired officer. But as a former officer, you're well aware that there's a lot of autonomy that has to be granted just because it goes on. But I appreciate being advised of what you see.
I spent most of my time with that.
That's all good. I need to know too. So, like I said, I can't watch every square inch of what my people do all day long. I have to have trust in them or they shouldn't be doing the job. But no, like I said, I want to hear about all these things, and that's where you can reach out with Jordan or even my office directly.
I don't so much have a question, but I did want to thank you for what you guys do. I really hope you get the help you need out there because, as you said, you know, visibility is everything. There's a little town, well, it's not so little anymore, Hurricane, Utah. Anybody who knew Hurricane knew that when you came up over that hill, you went exactly the speed limit, or you got pulled over every time. After you got pulled over, you continue through town, you go 1 mile over that speed limit, you're pulled over at the end of that town. Not that that's going to happen here, but seeing the officers out there patrolling makes a world of difference. And Fridays and Sundays are the heaviest. Longview and 138, again, like he said, you sit there and you always know if there's a resident behind you because they don't honk. They know what you're doing. Semis fly through that light. So, and that's scary.
I am planning on having my motorcycle coming out here a lot more often, and I'm adding a third motorcycle.
If you're
officer.
seen, it will make a difference. At least through that stretch.
just be mindful. When I tell I personally, I'm a big believer in heavy enforcement, not heavy verbals. So, but I need to give a warning from past experience. That usually catches some locals too. So just, I want to make sure the warning is there. So
I get accused of being a grandma, so.
It slows down other people.
I would like my guys to spend their time giving tickets to people who are disrespecting your town. And that's what they're doing when they come through here, not respecting where you live.
Well, yeah, and they're speeding, you know, doing 60 and a 50, and then there's what these guys do.
60?
They're up 89.
You're being nice. Yeah, I've seen a semi clock
Let's start with
at
those
98.
No,
When that sign was working, 98 through town.
Well, good, that's a whole other avenue, but just getting people to obey the general speed limit
Yeah.
is the focus now.
Can the locals get your car?
Your direct cell line, you know.
Unfortunately, I have enough people with that line, my wife will make me move. So, but as far as, you're all welcome to call my office, because it's not just me, my personnel need to hear this too.
Where is your office?
It's actually on Avenue I, over Lancaster. And we smell the internet all day long.
Ew, I'm sorry.
Your name is on the sign-in sheet of the
Yuck.
store.
Yuck.
Send that to them, is that okay? Yeah.
I got a question for you guys.
Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you both for your service.
Yes.
Trying to control this crazy crowd driving through here, but, you said something about signage and the trucks, not letting them hear there, but apparently the word's out that if you go across 170 about the highway to J, you can bypass Palmdale and stay on 138. If I was a truck driver, I'd go that way, but people like this guy, they live there, and the trucks going through there all the time, really,
There's basically just a sign that says no vehicles over this length or this weight are permitted beyond this point. And then if that's there, we can actually cite them.
Yeah, just like the signage along 138 has 5.5 on it. Who pays attention to
Well,
that?
that one's a leisure. We actually have vehicle code that says that. When it comes to the enforcement of heavy trucks, it's actually California Code of Regulations. So it's Title 13. It gets down to the government code, and it's a lot more
They have to know
complicated.
how much the truck weighs, and they have to be able to read the sign. It's
Well,
not-
all the drivers, those drivers know what their trucks weigh.
Yeah.
They know exactly what.
Yeah.
I can look at a truck and see how much tires are sitting and tell you how much the truck is weighing. So I've done the gig long enough, and every driver knows. They know what they're loaded with. They know if they're laden with paper or if they're just carrying bubble wrap.
Yeah, but they know you guys running staff, you're not trying to, how often you go up down 170?
I have a question, maybe backed off of that. So you brought up, you know, if these county roads that say, you know, no vehicle over this gross weight or whatever, we don't have any of those. I can only think of one spot in this area, and it's not 170th, so I can pretend nothing's been done to 170th, but when we had our quarries put in here on Avenue T, their trucks were told, you're not allowed to drive down Avenue T. You go up 106 and then you exit out onto the highway. That's what their plan was, but there's no signs on T, from what I can remember, and if they are, they got written down, whatever. So I know that was written into their business plan from safety, maybe public works or however.
A lot of it's for their permitting, to get the site built, because they're building 3 distribution centers off G.
Okay.
And
So
they have to go G and have to enter 14.
So let's just say we've identified 170th or another road based off of this. How, in your experience, how would we and who would we approach to initiate, one, are those signs worthy? And how fast, maybe can they get implemented, or who would implement them? I guess that's.
LA County Department of Public Works is specifically the agency that's responsible. And we have asked them, and it's not, the Supervisor Barker's office has actually been trying as well. But we've asked them, but they said the volume, the number of signs necessary is too vast to install at the time. So we're working on trying to find, okay, this road, then this road, then this road. And, we recognize the battle that we're fighting, so we're gonna try and make little wins instead of trying to conquer everything at one time. But if there are specific roadways, like I said, if I'm bringing up commercial, the officers I'm trying to bring to the 138 have portable scales. They will weigh trucks. They just need an asphalt surface to do it on. They will crawl under to make sure there's no leaking seals. They will put trucks out of service. They will put drivers out of service. They're actually trained to do that. My office, and I'm also trying to bring training to my office so my officers can do that. Because I have several officers that want to do that, but you have to be trained to do a lot of this commercial enforcement. And by government code, or to go to court, nothing will happen, and then the driver will be further involved.
That's gonna be tough for you guys, so because the shoulders are so soft.
We have to have an asphalt shoulder to pull off.
Very to your axles.
You would really need a very definite, specific spot, possibly, if we identify this, so I'm thinking bigger goals, right? Okay, Catherine's on her side, Public Works is starting to realize, okay, we have these hot corridors. You guys probably have easily already identified most of them, I would imagine, based off your experience. And us locals probably have a pretty good idea.
I was gonna probably a better idea.
Okay, so, I guess that might be true. So, Public Works, I know both of you guys are here. Catherine has made a commitment to helping us. You guys are in the county of Los Angeles, so this has been brought to our attention in just the second meeting of these corridors where we have heavy trucks passing through. Is that something we can open up a discussion? I mean, you guys might be able to touch on it tonight. I'm not asking for any full super details, but maybe you might be able to open up that door so now we can, even if we have to request from our supervisors to find funding for these signs, or to allow a team to officially designate these routes where they're too heavy as they pass through and overlap. That way we could actually hyper-focus either on our county roads and how they blend over to our state roads on how all these trucks are traveling. Because we have the big Amazon warehouse that we got. We have the one that's over here down the 15. So we know stuff's gonna be coming back and forth. Once these guys find out shortcuts through neighborhoods, they take them. So it's gonna be a challenge. I get it to challenge the routes with these big trucks, but can you share some experience or anything on that?
My name is Julian Garcia. I'm the principal engineer with LA County Public Works Traffic Safety and Mobility Division. One of the things that the supervisor's office has tasked us with is there's no road plan to look at a truck master plan, so to speak. That the efforts are starting on that to really identify where trucks need to go and how to enhance that. That's the one that's a massive long-term efforts that are starting, but as the captain mentioned, there have been about 8 to 10 locations that have been singled out as focus on these first. And it started with the captain before you, and it's continuing on. Now, there are challenges there with, and we're working with Caltrans on those, because they do govern commerce on kind of like what is the legality of the weight limits that can be put in. There's general weight limits, but we want to see like, well, what laws can we enact for specific corridors to limit it farther? So we're looking both at weight, and we're looking at windy roads potentially for length as well to handle that. So first approach we're doing the advisory signs, because those don't require laws, but some of them will require ordinances. As we're identifying which of these corridors we can limit. Part of the thing though is if you're gonna limit legally, reduce those limitations or those weight limits on the road, you have to provide an alternative route to identify. So that's also part of the hard part is, are we saying don't put it here, and we'll just put the problem in the next community locations. We have to be kind of very cognizant of making sure we're addressing it in the right way. But yeah, there are about 8 to 10 locations. 178 is one of the ones that was identified. That we're working on those and continue to provide some updates on those individual ones. The wider efforts that we'll also provide updates on, but we're banking more on that short-term solution of the individual corridors. But there is the legal limits that exist that can be signed. A lot of these might require lowering those limits, and that's what the challenge is. And first of all, justifying it through, if we say this road does not have the structural section, for instance, to say to support this type of traffic, then the alternative route must. Otherwise, why are you sending them there if this road is not good enough for it? Same thing with windy roads. If we say this road shouldn't have it, and this is the alternative route, if it has the same conditions, then it's not gonna pass muster. So that's part of the challenge, is defining where they need to go. And the final thing is, trucks are allowed to go anywhere anywhere in the state as long as they're making a delivery. So this is really just focused on through trucks. If a truck is coming to your house to deliver something, there is no restriction in place that will prevent that delivery from happening. If a truck's going to the point of business, like an Amazon warehouse, there is no law in place that's going to prevent that from happening because they are conducting business at that location. So some of the challenges there in addressing those concerns. But it is one of the priorities that we are focusing on, not just for this community, for the entire North County as a whole, because that's one of the main issues of concern that has been brought up over the last few years, for sure.
And this, you both be able to answer this. There's really not a road that's capable of handling massive truck volume in this section of the Antelope Valley. All the roads are really old. The one route that I know that they're told to go down, 116 is 106 is completely falling apart because they can't handle the weight for the trucks. So really, our infrastructure hasn't ever been built up for this. So the truck master plan that you're talking about, long-term goal, super important goal as well.
Right, and we identify those routes that are designated and then make projects to make those and say, it's going to be a designated route and it's going to be built up to support that, to have the infrastructure match that.
So as we identify these areas and we have workshops with the community to build them up and we prioritize these, I think the biggest goal would be, where do we keep sending these? Which road are we going to build up? I think that's going to be a greater conversation out of these meetings. Because we already know that on certain days, you're not going to catch a semi on the 138. It's going to bypass everything straight from B right to 170. That's what they do.
They're looking to avoid as many stops as possible because diesel's $5 a gallon.
Right, and as more, as part of this traffic safety features that implement the 138, that does slow down traffic, so it's probably gonna have incursion to go elsewhere. So this all goes kind of hand in hand, making sure that as we're solving one issue, we're not creating another.
Absolutely, and I think part of this design that we have had some unintended consequences that a lot of us didn't recognize. So thinking like that, thinking like how Osama has been brought up, we did at the last tour that we did, thinking about how these things all overlap are critical, and to precise implementation of traffic flow, and then commerce flow. But to me, they're two separate things. They're sharing the road correctly, but truckers have a certain mentality, they have a mission, they're getting paid, they take their roads. They get paid by the minute, not the mile, right? So the faster they get to their spot without driving too fast, they win. They make more money. Where most of us are trying to get home and survive for the night, or just a few other people, they're just trying to go have some fun, and the last thing on their mind is being safe, because they're just stoked about going to Vegas. So thank you for touching on that. I think that conversation is going to be a big important piece of this whole 138 puzzle. I think the North County Transit Coalition, I think you guys have probably already talked about that in previous meetings about where all these trucks are going. So you have the support from all of us here. And if we all need as community members to help show Catherine, and I don't think we have to show Catherine anything, I think she fully understands. I think we have to help her convince the other 4 supervisors that there's a chunk of the county that lacks road equity. And if we're sharing warehouses, commerce from other cities using our spots, and then some of that road equity needs to belong here. So if you face challenges, my job in this piece of the puzzle is to make sure I get them together to advocate to Catherine and the 5 others to help provide that in our road safety. So thank you, sir, for clarifying that. Thank you very much. Do you have anything else you'd like to say? Any other questions?
I have one for the officers. Just the last few years, the speed has gotten higher and higher on 138. And I wonder if that's attributed to new cars, trucks coming out, with higher performance engines, and cars that really go. And you have to stay out of their way. And they go like crazy. Have you seen a pattern with that?
Just for example, when a lot of it came out of COVID, we actually saw our citations for over 100 miles an hour quintuple. Now, as an agency, statewide, we wrote 5 times more over 100 mile an hour speeding tickets during COVID, and I think we saw driving behaviors become established. There's a saying that it takes 30 days to establish a culture. That also is for behavior. If you want to make Pearblossom dog, it takes 30 days of doing it. Well, if you let people drive like maniacs for a year, now we have to rein that in. And yeah, cars are faster. Cars, even the ones that drive themselves, as far as
that's scary too.
But honestly, when it comes to the self-driving cars, it's going to be putting us out of a job because they're only going to do 55. They're going to do exactly what the posted limit is. So the impatient people are going to disengage and step on the gas. And that's what we're seeing now. People who do the right thing, they already do it. They're the ones that don't get in a crash, unfortunately. But other people who don't do the right thing, they have innocent victims involved in their behavior.
I mean, you can put lane you're in, and I saw a really good bumper sticker the other day that said, the closer you get, the slower I go.
I would caution, we do see a lot of road rage now that's resulting in shootings.
Yep.
So not just here, it's everywhere. It actually is everywhere throughout the state. It's just an aspect of, it goes bring me down a different tangent as far as, so I would caution any type of driving vigilantism where you would, monitor you. If someone wants to be a maniac, let them go around you. Don't become a victim to their anger.
If there's nowhere to go, then they make their own lane.
But one thing I would recommend for all of you that when you have someone who is a reckless driver, call 911. If you have someone who's in danger, because all these calls, my guys, they get broadcast to every one of my officers that's working. And if they get to it or not, it goes on a record, and I can then say, I need more officers assigned to my office.
Yeah, I monitor you frequently. We're both ham radio operators.
Okay.
We listen to LA and San Francisco.
You're still going to be able to listen to us for a while because we're staying on low band for a long, long time.
I know you are, thank God.
We still wear wool uniforms, so we spend our money where we can, not on our uniforms and our
It's
radios.
always good to listen to what you guys do a small car, and I just, LA County Fire too, and you both work together. And I remember Sturgeon, too, he's response team, and we're the only ones out here. So we might be the first ones there, so we try to listen to you guys. So we might have to be the first ones there, because it takes, our closest stations here, 79, Pearblossom. And it takes us 20 minutes to get out. Either way, it's I can look way out there. Still in LA County, way out there, county line. And it takes, if the 79 is down on a call, because they're 19 in a little one, and you guys are busy, it takes a long time to get out here. So we try to, with the search thing, we try to get there.
What's important, and all of you being part, one thing you all can do for these interstate truck drivers that are coming through here, if you look at the back of those trailers, most all of them have a phone number.
Yeah, they do.
So call and complain on the driver. It may go nowhere, but a lot of these trucking companies rely on low insurance rates because of their driver safety practices. So if they're getting lots of complaints about unsafe drivers, you know, and a lawsuit and a deposition against a truck driver, believe me, Larry H. Parker and all these other firms make a lot of money, and Rex Paris too, you see the billboards, they make a lot of money, and having a phone call about a reckless truck is gonna be exhibit number one.
It's not the trucks, it's the cars and pickup trucks that want to run you off the road. The semis, they're okay, I don't have a problem with them. Sometimes you're a little fast, but no, it's the other people. It's regular cars, regular pickup trucks, you better stay out of their way.
If you can get call 911 if you can get a license plate included.
Yeah, but don't they have to catch them in the act?
Put it like this. You have someone in the car, and that jerk is doing exactly what you described the last 100 people have done. But this guy, if you can actually report it, whether we know it's going to do something or not. That guy drives 5 miles down the road,
You might cause an accident.
and he causes an accident and hurts someone. Now there's documentation 5 miles prior.
We can actually charge much more aggravated charges because we have this. And we also have a witness now because you're going to be in the log when we call.
Do I have to go to court?
It's possible.
So, and that's the catch-22 to being irresponsible. So if we want to protect our communities, that's one of the small things that we have to do. Now, I wish I could sit there and record a lot of people, and I have my daughters, whoever's in the car, hey, get this guy on video real quick. I don't do it to everybody, but we have those guys that we face that. That happens every once in a while. So let's do our best to be vigilant without getting shot at. One small practice before we jump into our cue cards that we have a few questions.
It's nothing, Chris. It's just like our resident deputy always says too. The captain touched on it. He said, even if nothing happens, the calls still got logged, and the more calls that he gets, the more justification they have to send more help. The sheriff's department says the same exact thing.
Sometimes you realize when that you can't cancel like it.
Right. Well, yeah. If you have, that's something to go to. That puts ammunition for him to go and say. But we're getting the calls. We don't have the manpower. And Captain, I want to thank you for your service and your son's sacrifice.
That's always the unfortunate thing. That's why I sympathize with
For sure.
Every family suffers. We have someone, we lose someone because of careless act. It affects not just 1, 2, it affects 10, 20, hundreds of people. Whole communities are affected.
Sure.
So I do take every tragedy seriously. And I do promise I'll utilize every bit of creativity I have to try and tamper it as much as I can. I need people to do the right thing. Ultimately. But I do appreciate that. Absolutely. Well,
Thank you. We're gonna.
Unless you have any other questions.
I think we're good. We might have one that might pop up, so you guys relax, hang out for a minute.
I wanted. I don't want to being rude. Sorry. I don't want to remain the shadowy figure in the back. Like my captain said, I'm the CIO for the area, so you guys will be seeing me at these and other meetings a lot more. A little bit about me. Graduated the academy in 2017. Did 3 years in West LA. I've done the last 4 up here. Grew up East Palmdale, went to Pete Knight High School, not necessarily Pearblossom, but I was at Charlie Brown's every other weekend buying candy and slushies for big game like that. So I grew up here. I sympathize with all of you. When I'm on patrol, one of my favorite places to go is SR 138 between 90th and 165th, because the speed there, I can get 15 tags and 15 citations in a couple hours if I try real hard. So understand, as the PIO, I'm now the community liaison, kind of the bridge between my captain and all the great things he's trying to do for us, but between him and you. So I will give my business card to anyone who's interested in contacting me in hopes that we can work together to better the area. And I know it's a lot. I know we can dogpile a million thoughts on the one thing or one department or whatever it might be, but I mean, the better we clarify our vision, the more likely we are to get some things done. So let me know if you guys need anything from me, but I'm happy to be here, happy to serve you.
Thank you.
So my name is Janet Flores. Nice to meet you all. Officer Church, next time you call me, don't call me telling me I'm Officer Church from CHP. That's not
I have to.
He scared the living daylights out of me because my kids had just left the house and I thought they were in a car accident. So I scolded him.
I do apologize.
I scolded him. No, I have 3 questions here from people in the audience that I want to go ahead and relay. I don't know if this is still legal. I know years back it was happening, but I'd like to, there was a question that was brought up. Can we still have cameras installed for speeding? Is that still something that's legal?
Unfortunately, not up here.
Of course.
They actually did just pass legislation allowing speed enforcement cameras. They're administrative, but they're only permitted in certain cities. Actual municipal cities. I think Los Angeles was permitted 30 cameras total for the entire city. But you are allowed to have red light cameras, but as far as, there's not a speed enforcement camera.
That would help.
Yeah.
The red light cameras would still help.
An officer has to testify as to it, so an officer has to go back, view it, testify, and there's a very complicated process for criminal prosecution. So right now, they're just looking at administrative, so it's kind of like a parking ticket.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Another question for, I'm assuming this is Caltrans. Are there any plans for a light at 106 and 138?
Sorry?
Are there any plans for 106 and 138?
Where we just
for
had
a light?
the 2 big collisions at the end of April.
We don't have any plans as we speak now, but we can look into it. We'll see if there would be a need. If there would be a need, then we'll look into it further and we'll.
Okay, because my understanding is that there was a traffic study done there, and all that was suggested was a sign stating to drivers that cross traffic does not stop. That's probably not sufficient. That's not gonna stop people from driving over. So maybe something else being done on 106 would be, a possibility.
Are you talking about the regular light, or are you talking about flashing light, or what kind of light?
I think
anything.
probably
Anything
as
is
some
fine.
sort of, I could probably touch on that one. So 106, where we just had our big accidents and everyday misses right there. We did do a tour of Sama, and what was the other gentleman? Lee, yes. We toured that, and a couple suggestions did come up. We could probably never get a light there because of the angle of the curve. Actually, I know we're not gonna ever get an actual light there. So as for a light, we could put in all the requests to have the light, and because of the angle, unless we can change that angle, then we'll probably never get a light there. But what was recommended at that meeting, what might be possible, and it's also a little more expensive, but long-term, I think it would prove itself, is the only thing we really put there is a roundabout.
Oh, man,
And it sounds crazy. And I'll be the first one to admit, when I drove through my first roundabout in Long Beach, I was all, we are not in Europe. This is not France. Those were my first thoughts. And I was all, why would we do this?
there's a reason.
And as I travel all over the United States, because that's my job, and I've been in so many different cities that link into rural communities, and repeatedly, over and over and over, stop signs are being removed and roundabouts are being put in.
They were.
And the reason why I believe this is happening is because the data is allowing more and more to go in, because it shows two major important things. Every single one knows. If we drive up that stretch to 106 and there's a roundabout, there's no physical way, unless we just aren't paying attention, you're going to drive right through that roundabout. And it's going to be big. If that happens, I think it's going to be pretty rare. But if we do have collisions in that roundabout, one, they're going to be lower speeds, and the angle of impact is going to be different. So as a local, I could give two shnikes about any person from Los Angeles or up north or from San Bernardino coming through here being bothered by that. It's 1.5 miles from my house, maybe 4 or 5 from any one of yours is. And I know that I have 2 daughters that are going to be going to Little Rock soon, and I know some of you already do too, that have to go over 106. So I'm praying that there's a roundabout there in the next 2 years. So all of my daughters and the next big groups are, so that's a safety measure. So my question to Caltrans is, when we requested the light for here at 126 to be studied and brought out, we had to formally request that. You made that point. Mr. Minzel is the council. I think Robert was with us at that meeting. And I think Kyle and Victor at the time, the 4 of us were there. And we were told that we need to request the study for the light. The project wasn't assembled yet or finished yet. So after the project was finished, then the survey went in for the light and went into its process. Is there something similar that our community can actually request and also reinforce to have that roundabout study implemented or started?
Yeah, so in terms of, like the question, sure. So in terms of the question that was asked, as far as we have plans for a traffic signal, that's part of our assessment that I mentioned earlier that we're looking to complete at the end of August, early September. So with that, we will evaluate if a traffic signal is required there, or there's an intersection control evaluation policy. It's also getting its name changed. But that looks at different solutions at intersections. So it's not just a traffic signal that we go into and say we need a traffic signal here. It's what else can we do aside from a traffic signal. As was mentioned, one of the nice benefits of the roundabout is it reduces the impact, the severity of the collisions. So I'm not saying we're going to put a roundabout every single intersection, but where do they make sense? Where is it needed? What can we really do? And so that's going to be part of our assessment that we're going to be conducting right now. And so I also did want to touch on what the captain mentioned earlier. Yeah, there was a pilot that was initiated with regards to speed cameras, enforcement cameras, and it identified, I think, like 6 cities in terms of where they would be implemented. Los Angeles was one of them. Because that was such a creative or innovative kind of approach to reduce the speeds, the city of Malibu, through their elected officials, Senator Irwin and Senator Ben Allen, they're looking at expanding that authority towards being able to implement speed cameras, enforcement cameras in Malibu. So there may be an opportunity here through your local representatives to get that authority to do that here. That's outside of what we do at Caltrans with regards to enforcement, where we do the engineering component of traffic safety, but that could be an option as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. One more question is, who is in charge of the signage along 138? Is it Public Works or is it Caltrans?
Yeah, so in terms of Route 138, the signage on Route 138, that's our facility, so we're responsible for the signage there. Now the signage on the roads that lead to 138, but that would be outside of our jurisdiction, so that could be the county or maybe in the city of Palmdale, that could be a city of Palmdale, Lancaster, whatever. But yeah, on the facility, state Route 138, that's us.
And I guess a follow-up question for that is it possible to get them looked at? We have signage for speed limits that are literally on the way over here. 40 miles per hour and 100 feet in front of you, 50, and then another a few feet, 35, so they're very contradictory. It's hard to tell what you're supposed to be doing. And then you have the ones that are supposed to be flashing that are covered with a plastic bag.
Or not working.
Or they're not working, or they're partially uncovered and they're working, but you can't see them. So if we can get those looked at, that would be great.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's something that myself, one of my colleagues, we noticed on the way in, because it's not that far from here. So as I mentioned earlier, one of my slides talked about the appropriate speeds, and so we're gonna do a speed evaluation here. That's part of it, to make sure that the roadway is signed appropriately, and having confusing signage with regards to speeds, that doesn't help anyone. So we'll correct that signage deficiency there. I think I missed part of your question earlier with regards to the request. I mean, we're doing an assessment right now as far as what we can do. So you don't necessarily need to provide us official request saying, hey, we'll study this location as to what's possible. But as we're doing our study, we'll be interacting with you and other community members to better understand the issues here, so that we can maybe have better insights as to, hey, look, we think based on the data we should be here, but your experience tells you that this is a place where we should be spending our hours of research and analysis. So that's what we're looking forward to doing.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss a formality. That's why I was asking about putting in like a formal request.
Right, because what happens, and thank you, because what happens oftentimes is we get requests from, basically at District 7, we're responsible, or we interact with over 100 cities, both in LA and metro counties, and we receive letters all the time from all the different cities saying, hey, look, we have this concern at this location or that location, and then we initiate special investigations at that location or that location. And so in this case, we're already taking kind of like a proactive or maybe a reactive kind of approach to this corridor. So it's not that you need to bring extra awareness to the fact that there's an issue here. We already understand that there's issues or opportunities that we need to be addressing and working towards. So if you have specific insights, like the gentleman mentioned earlier in our Xavier district here, we'll gladly take any sort of feedback so that can better inform our analysis. But you don't have to send us a letter saying, hey, look, these 10 locations.
I figured that was under your scope. I just wanted to make sure that, if there's a box that we gotta check, we do it.
No, I appreciate it, thank you. There may be more there, but I did see.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, sorry. The other question that I had was for DUI checkpoints. How often can we get those out here along Highway 138 between Little Rock and Pearblossom?
We actually were looking at planning to do one, which is it's more about getting the grant allocated hours and personnel to work at, but also looking at the safety aspect. We actually do have what we're trying to plan for one out here. We can't stop so many vehicles. It gets complicated, but we are trying to make sure we have that. So it would probably be more if Little Rock than here because the speed's coming in. We would have a backup that would be a mile long.
Right, and we understand that it takes a lot of manpower also, so.
I actually want to ask you something. When you guys do those DUI checkpoints, why is it that you announce them?
We have to.
Really?
By law, we have to actually announce them, and by law, we have to provide a way around them.
Okay.
Serious. That's
No,
the
I mean,
law.
I guess.
We were sued.
I kind of get it,
And as a result of
but.
the lawsuit, we have to provide a way to circumvent a DUI checkpoint as well as tell people. We don't have to get the exact location, but if someone calls within 2 hours of the checkpoint time to our dispatch, that has to be disclosed.
Seems kind of counterintuitive. I mean, I know you guys still,
We have to comply with the law.
Yeah, don't always agree with all the laws, but I just was curious.
A lot of people are.
Okay, just one last thing. I want to introduce Susie Calderon. She is actually the one who started this initiative, the safety initiative. She came to myself and to Chris and said, let's get together and let's do something. And I strongly feel that it's important to build relationships. And the fact that we're here with CHP, with Caltrans, with Public Works, that shows that they are committed to this community as we are to you, our community members. And we want to thank everyone for being here tonight. But before we give a big applause and thank you for everyone, I want to have Susie come on out and have one last announcement.
Can we just give her one right off the bat? She's been wonderful at making all of this happen. I can't send an email out for nothing. Jenny's been very busy with the council, so